These are 5 absolute superpowers that anyone with strong Scorpio energy will likely possess. This is going to apply to anyone that has a very prominent Scorpio in their chart. Could be a Scorpio Sun, Scorpio Moon for sure, Scorpio Venus, maybe to a lesser extent, Scorpio Mars, depending on what we're talking about in the context. Scorpio rising, people that have a strong 8th house, or very strong Pluto in their chart, or strong Pluto aspects. I'm really talking about here Scorpio energy as an archetype. So number 1, Scorpios have an insane memory. They have an insane emotional memory. And by insane, I mean it's crazy good. It's not like other people's. And when I say emotional memory, I mean that in the sense that they don't necessarily remember everything. They don't want to remember very trivial things or things that aren't poignant, things that don't matter to them. But when it comes to things that are especially significant for a Scorpio, the memory becomes almost photographic, right? They can remember these exact nuances, right? They remember these details, and they're able to do it because they connect with those moments at such a visceral level that it forms an imprint inside them, inside their mechanism for remembering things and recalling things. And it's something that they can access many years later. And they can access not only, the memory of it, but even more so really the emotion that they felt. Scorpios just remember like very small details that would blow someone else's mind, when they bring them up. People are just like, how the hell did you remember that? Like, why would you remember that? And Scorpio, like, they just do, right? And it's not just like something they're pulling out from this, giant toy box of old memories. Like, they're usually able to really pinpoint it and pinpoint the time. This usually applies to dreams as well. Scorpios usually have very strong dream recollection. Even if they don't always remember the precise details of a dream, again, they can remember a feeling they had in their dream, even if they can't totally explain it. And they're usually able to remember like a general time period in their life when they had it. Like, oh, I think I had that dream sometime in like 2015. And they're able to like kind of remember some of the loose contours of the dream. Dreams are always a little bit porous and boundaryless, but absolutely a superpower for Scorpios. And if you're friends with a Scorpio or you're dating one or in a relationship with one, you're going to love this trait because they remember things about you and they work to know you and learn you in ways that other signs just aren't capable of, like even if they wanted to. They remember your specific emotional reactions to things, and they're able to use this in the future in order to comfort you, in order to help ease that emotional pain for you or help give you support. It's something incredibly powerful that you can give to another person, right? And obviously, and this is just going to be a general disclaimer, right? All of these sort of superpowers can be used for bad. I'm not talking at all in this video about what it means to be an unevolved or an evolved Scorpio, and I'm honestly getting a little sick of people saying, oh, a person is a Scorpio and they're this way. It's like, you've just like met some shitty Scorpios, right? And honestly, you usually attract in your life what you put out there. Life reflects back what you're putting out there. So if you're attracting a bunch of really shitty, toxic Scorpios, you also need to like look in the mirror a little bit and realize that not all of them are like that. And it's a big world out there. And so don't typecast people. You're welcome, Scorpios of the world, for defending you for a little bit. Number 2, Scorpios have an incredibly deep capacity for demonstrating empathy. And that power is actually born out of them usually having experienced such a range of negative, traumatic, tragic things themselves. A lot of Scorpios are no stranger to some level of trauma, personal trauma, mental health, professional, familial, relationship. Scorpios understand it. Because they've been in really dark places, they also really understand what it's like to be trapped in maybe some poor coping mechanisms, different ways of self-medicating, different methods to maintain some level of self-protection, preservation, dark mental places, right? Dark moods, depression, black holes, the dark thing, whatever. Like Scorpio is no stranger to that. Scorpios know intimately well that everyone sort of has their demons, right? And left unattended, those demons can be really scary and destructive and can lead to really destructive things in people's lives. Scorpios know that people die and people cheat and people are fallible. So Scorpio is usually never one to necessarily judge, or they're not one to be afraid, and they're not one to be uncomfortable with someone expressing or sharing some of those things with them, you know, some really vulnerable admissions, or having to support someone that's, you know, going through an extremely rough time for whatever reason. Other signs, of course, have that capacity, right? But like, by and large, Scorpios, they get it, right? They've been through something that makes them get it. Number 3, Scorpios have this superhuman ability to transform pain, destruction, disappointment, rejection, grief, and just overall darkness into transformational personal growth. If a Scorpio is broken up with or rejected in a relationship, if a Scorpio loses a loved one, right? If a Scorpio is abandoned by a loved one, if a Scorpio, you know, their life falls apart, maybe they have a marriage and kids, you know, all of that falls apart, they lose a house, maybe Scorpio loses their job or sense of financial security, whatever. Scorpio is like the one sign where, when stripped of everything that gave them security previously, or stripped of everything that at one point defined their whole existence, they're forced to almost be at their best, right? Because Scorpio is ruled by Pluto. Pluto is the planet of destruction, catastrophe, Armageddon. It's that level of intensity and power. But anytime you have like complete death, always with that is connected new life, right? So Pluto is literally transformational. It's the most intense transformational level kind of energy. And so when a Scorpio feels like something tragic, like any of the things I've just described, they're going to feel it so much harder than any other sign. Even just like a soft rejection, or someone that doesn't believe something they say, or something that someone says that just rubs them the wrong way. Like, Scorpios can be so sensitive, and they can, even in just those small things where someone else would just kind of laugh or brush aside, Scorpio can be like a little bit seething inside. Granted, Scorpio has to like pick their battles, right? You can't always channel your plutonic energy in response to every little thing in life. Sometimes you just gotta kind of learn to dodge a little bit. But when a Scorpio takes a bullet, you know, to the heart, metaphorically, right? While it's going to be completely leveling to them, and they're gonna be hit very hard, as soon as that period of feeling it and that period of death and destruction and mourning is over, they rise from the ashes, right? They rise like a phoenix, and they're able to achieve things that they otherwise wouldn't have been able to had there not been whatever horrible destructive thing happened. They do this because they're imbued with this level of energy that, again, they wouldn't have had already, and they're able to bring a different kind of perspective that they wouldn't have had, you know, the catastrophic thing happen. It's like Scorpio's driving along this big windy road, they get hit by a semi, careened off a cliff, their car explodes, it's horrible. But after they like stop burning and come back to life and start walking around, they realize there's like a path that goes straight through the big windy climbing mountain road, right? And does it in like a tenth of the time. Right? They find these like new ways and new paths, and they can usually accelerate towards a new goal or come at an existing goal from a different perspective. And while they may sit kind of in rock bottom for a really long time and it seems like really ugly, once they kind of break out of that and shed their skin, things happen very fast, right? And it's a incredible thing to see. Number 4, Scorpios have this ability to be a conduit for absolute truth, right? They really are able to get to the absolute truth in heart and essence of any situation. And this manifests as themselves being people that want the truth, they want honesty, and they value it, right, at all costs. Like, a Scorpio really detests white lies, or they detest any kind of fakeness or superficiality. And even if some of you at home are saying, oh, like, I've known Scorpios and they're all like liars and manipulators, right? Again, lowbrow Scorpio energy can be shitty, but I'm talking about the pure essence of like evolved Scorpio energy. They want to pierce everything to the core, to the truth. And so not only do they want to tell the truth, but they have this ability to attract it and kind of pull it out of others. Not always intentionally, but they have an aura which affects people in a way, in a distinct way. It makes other people feel like they can trust the Scorpio person, even if They don't necessarily know them super well yet. So Scorpio is often going to be a person that knows a lot of people's secrets, right? And it's not something that Scorpio solicits, right? It is something that other people just kind of volunteer to Scorpio, and then they kind of spill all these things out and they're like, holy shit, I can't believe I just told you all that stuff. But at the end of the day, right, Scorpio is like not a bad person to tell because of a couple of the things I've mentioned earlier in this list, right? They have empathy, usually they can kind of relate, and they're not someone that is going to gossip or betray your trust. They can be a keeper, and they can also be a sounding board and a conversation partner. Just by even listening, without even interjecting or saying anything themselves, just by listening and asking questions, they can actually kind of help people find the answers that are already within themselves, but they aren't really able to access, because sometimes on their own, they're like getting in their own way. And Scorpio just kind of has a way of sometimes clearing the path to the truth, both in just things and organizations and in other people. It's really kind of remarkable. Number 5, a Scorpio is very undisturbed by the expectations of others, by the expectations of society, of the world, of how they should be. A Scorpio values larger imperative. They don't necessarily care what the principal of the school is saying. They don't necessarily care what they hear on television or their friends are saying or their neighbors are saying or what they hear on the radio. Scorpios don't care about these relative truths or these narratives or paradigms that no one else is usually able to kind of step away from and gain perspective from. Scorpios are concerned with absolute truth. They're concerned with what's invisible. They're concerned with what's not spoken. They're very skeptical. They think for themselves, and the wisdom that they hold is usually something that they've developed over a long period of experiencing life and trial and error and making mistakes and feeling pain and questioning what they've been told. A Scorpio wants soul. They want truth. They want instinct. They don't just want to fit in. They don't just want to go with what everyone else is doing. While small, this is actually an incredible power for Scorpio as well.